like Orlando a lot, and in the right matchup, I think I might have liked Orlando. I guess my issue is, and I think if you're going to be right here with the Magic, Donovan Mitchell has not looked great. And I think, obviously, if you like the Cavaliers and you want to have a lot of confidence in them, you'd like to know that Donovan Mitchell is going to be really healthy. I guess, Orlando really wants to get down and dirty and make it a really, really physical game. Like, they're not beating any team by winning like 125, 122. Because where's the scoring coming from? Like, Banchero is not... He has games where he can be really brilliant. I don't have confidence he can do that over the balance of like an entire series. Like Suggs is good. Wagner's good. I don't know if any of these guys are good enough to like put up the type of scoring numbers that can win you a high scoring game. So Orlando's kind of like this grindy team. And I kind of think the same thing is true of Cleveland, except Cleveland has Donovan Mitchell, a guy that can score 40 in a big game if he's right. I like the Cavs here in the series. I think the way I want to play it as opposed to laying the 190, I want to play the Cavs minus a game and a half, plus 110, where they win 4-2, 4-1, or sweep, and I win with my Cleveland Cavaliers bet, leaning towards laying the points with the Cavs in game number 1 on Saturday. I have a couple days to make that decision, but I like the Cavs coming up in the series against Orlando. And again, me and Ken Barkley back on Wednesday will give you more full thoughts on all of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, too, like with the scoring with Orlando, I mean, I think one of the things, too, is you look at, this Cavaliers team and I mean, they've got defensive presence down in the post, right? So Banchero is going to have to sort of beat you by doing some mid-range stuff, by hitting some outside shots, and or just go otherworldly underneath, draw some fouls on Cleveland's bigs, and you hope that you put them in a bad spot and Mitchell can't play at a really high level. I do not like fading Donovan Mitchell either. I would just say that, like, Donovan Mitchell can go nuclear at the drop of a hat, even though, as you point out, he hadn't played as well in recent weeks.
Yeah, because he's not fully healthy, but I think like he'll have like a lot of time to rest now. Again, the game not coming up until this weekend, so we will see. Cleveland about a 4-point favorite, and Orlando has gotten bet in game 1 since open. So the thought being Orlando can keep it close. I think the Cavs will win, and I think Cleveland wins the series. When it's ultimately said and done, I feel like we'll be fairly easy. The Clips are a small favorite right now in game 1 at home, 1.5, 225.5 against Luka Doncic and the Mavs. But Dallas is favored right now in the series at BetMGM. Dallas minus 115, the Clippers minus 105. So a little bit similar here, Will, to the Bucks-Pacers series with the injury to Giannis, kind of his status up in the air. I think obviously a little bit of a better situation here with Kawhi seemingly than Giannis. What do you think with the Clippers and the Mavs?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, like, all right, if you like the Mavs, I mean, and you think it's very odd to see the Clippers favored by 1.5 and the Mavs favored on the series. Like, if you think the Clippers are going to win the first game, but I don't know, I would tend to maybe want to wait to bet the Mavericks until after the first game of the series, because you want to see how Kawhi looks. I mean, what was going on there and saying that on a Sunday before the start of the playoffs? That feels a lot like – that doesn't feel like he's getting fed something from a BS team source or an agent, right? I mean, that feels like pretty solid, concrete information.
But it could be that he doesn't play game 1 and then like he's back for game 2. We just don't know how it's gonna go.
Right.
That doesn't mean he's definitely playing in game 1. I think what that means is the Clippers feel like he'll be back soon. Is what that means. That's my interpretation.
Don't love fading Kawhi in the playoffs. I'll take Luka and the Mavs, though. I think Luka's due for a big run. I don't know. Just goes crazy in a series. I'll take the Mavs minus 120. That's pretty sure. Yeah, it's freaking Luka.
And maybe you'd probably like Dallas in the second round. And this worked out pretty advantageously for Dallas, where the Nuggets are now at the bottom half of the bracket as the 2 seed. Oklahoma City is the 1. So assuming Oklahoma City gets past like the Warriors or the Lakers or the Kings or the Pelicans, whoever it is, in that 1-8 matchup, Dallas probably going to play Oklahoma City. And I think that would be a pretty tight matchup also. I think a lot of people would like Dallas in that series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You can't do anything until you know Kawhi's status. So this is really, for me, will be a wait and see. So this is the one out of the 4 that we'll talk about here. I have the least opinion on this one right now, obviously with the status of Kawhi Leonard kind of hanging, his status kind of hanging over this entire series. So that's the Mavericks and the Clippers. And let's close here with the Suns and the Wolves, and we can even carry this over into the next segment if we need to, where Phoenix smashes Minnesota on Sunday. So these two teams literally played yesterday. Phoenix wins to officially move out of the play-in and lands as the 6. And by virtue of Minnesota's loss and how the end of the season went down, not only does Minnesota not get the 1, Minnesota doesn't get the 2. Minnesota's the 3, does have home court here against the Suns, but Phoenix is favored in the series. Phoenix minus 115, Minnesota minus 105. Minnesota is a really small home favorite against Phoenix on Saturday. The Wolves minus 1.5, 214.5 the total. Give us some thoughts here. We can carry it over to the other side, Will, on the Suns and the Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Trysta before. Anthony Edwards hadn't played well against the Suns. I think he got a lot more experience in terms of, like big game experience on the Phoenix side of things. I'll take Phoenix in the series and in this game 1. And I think if you want to bet Phoenix in the series, in case you think they win, you better get it now because the price obviously shoots way up if they win on the road in game 1. But we've seen this sort of thing too, where it's like reminds me of when the Jets and the Bengals laid down under Marvin Lewis and let the Jets beat them in Week 16, and then they get the Jets in the playoffs and the Jets roll them. It's like the worst thing you can do is get absolutely steamrolled by somebody. You're reeling, you fall down to the 3 seed, and now you got to play the team that steamrolled you. You let them into the playoffs up against you. I hate when that happens. I like Phoenix here.
And then one of the reasons why I like Phoenix, we've been waiting all year for like the Durant, Booker, Beal, for them all to be playing well and be healthy at the same time. Like Beal's starting to play really well here at the end of the season. I really like Phoenix in this series, so I'll lay the short price with the Suns. I don't know if I'm going to bet them in game 1. My thought is that they'll go back to Phoenix tied at a game apiece, so maybe it's whoever wins game 1, go Oppo in game 2, and then I think the Suns will win both in the desert and then eventually win the series probably in 6, advance to the second round where they will lose to the Denver Nuggets. And we can find out.
And I think,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's one of those situations too, where when you have a series price where the Suns are a short favorite at minus 1, it's minus 115, minus 105, it's just who do you think is going to win? You really don't need to bet the Suns in game 1 as well, unless you have a massively strong conviction about Phoenix going to Minnesota and winning, because you're already invested. Essentially, if Minnesota wins, like it's not going to move drastically, but if Phoenix wins, this will be a huge series shift in terms of the price. If they get a game in Minnesota, right?
Oh yeah.
Or if they get game 1 in Minnesota, I think you could see it go to like Phoenix minus 150, where you wouldn't want to bet it. So if that's just one of those where the price where it is, you don't need to bet Phoenix game 1. You just bet the series.
Yeah, so Phoenix, again, minus 115. I agree with you, by the way. I think that was good analysis for the Suns and the Timberwolves. Ken and I will give you full thoughts on the NBA postseason when we both return to the show on Wednesday.
I'm curious, is there anybody who's in the play-in tournament that you think might provide value, like long-term value? I mean, you have the Celtics and the Nuggets, the clear favorites to win the NBA Finals. But I'm curious if there's anybody in the play-in games that you think, all right, maybe this team gets hot at the right time, can kind of get in there and maybe roll through and upset somebody and provide some value in terms of the future market.
I'm not going to like this answer as a Knicks fan, but go ahead, Trysta. I'm not going to like this, right? Go on.
Well, I took Heat to win the East at plus 1,600. How could you not, right? Like the thing that the Heat do is the same every year. Like the blueprint for them is they don't care about the regular season. They load manage Jimmy Butler, which is like one of the worst kept secrets in the NBA. And it's just a different thing. Like NBA in the regular season is very different than NBA in the playoffs. Like, and the Heat are built for this. They've made the conference finals in 3 or 4 years, even though they're the 5 seed and the 8 seed. They're better this year than last year. They have Terry Rozier. They've got a healthy Tyler Hero. Like, and if they play the Bucks, I think it's a wrap for the Bucks. If they play the Celtics, it's going to be a very tough test for the Celtics. I actually have a bet on the Sixers to win the East as well at plus 1,000 and plus 800. But in terms of value, I think the value is still on the Heat at 16-1. Because you've got a dynamic team and you've got one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the Eastern Conference in Eric Spoelstra. So for that, I say probably put a little bit of money on both of those teams, Sixers and Heat, because you don't know whether they're going to play, who's going to play the Celtics in round 1. And I think whoever plays the Bucks in round 1 is probably positioned to have some hedging opportunities down the road, which is, I don't think the Heat necessarily are going to go to the finals again, which would make the entire playoff complexion pretty boring, because I think you watch that Nugget series and know how it's going to go down again. but there's a lot of opportunities if you can get them 16 to 1 down the road to make money and lock it in.